Hey, Don.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Good. How are you doing this morning?
Good. Hold on. Got to move all my things around, right?
I have so many windows open.
I know I don't even know how to teach though anymore without video because or without multiple screens. I have to do it in one of my classrooms and
Oh,
it is not great.
yeah. I can't imagine. I'm always really paranoid about sharing my screen. I'm like, are you seeing the right thing? Are you seeing my email?
Right. Well, actually, I just realized that right now I have everything on the wrong screen. So let me move things around. Yeah, okay, wait. I paused the recording too because I figured.
Oh, smart. Yeah. Although I think I'm still recording. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Zoom is tricky.
Okay.
Let's see.
So let me move this over here and then.
I have to go find my phone so I can do a two-factor.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Sarah, can you tell me if the what you're seeing is the Zines in the classroom screen?
Yep.
Okay, and then I'm up in the corner, wherever anybody wants me.
Yeah, I think it's up to the participants to decide the gallery view versus speaker view, but
Great.
I can see you in your screen.
Okay, great. And just to kind of scroll through, good.
Cute, yeah.
Okay, great.
Fun slides.
I tried to make them a little more exciting. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just trying to generate, or explain my experience, and where I'm going, and then generate some conversation.
Yeah, I think we got, let me look. 12 people are registered.
Oh, I hope they come.
I know, I hope they come too. It's always so hit or miss,
I know. Well, this is a busy time. It's week 8, and hold on. I'm gonna go get myself some water so that I don't get parched.
Sure.
Well, there's 3 people in the chat, the waiting room, so that's exciting.
Oh, there's a waiting room. Oh, shoot.
Do you want me to just admit them?
Sure, I can admit them too.
All right,
I didn't have to think about it. I forgot I put in a meeting room.
Hello, Chilan and Jolie and Jenna.
Hi. I'm working remotely, so my office is a mess.
I'm I am also working from home, but we have new windows in Bevere and they are in my office this morning. So, timing, it all works out great.
Yeah. I just moved. I cleaned out my office on campus yesterday, so I'm down to one home office now.
There you go.
Ooh, there is.
I know now that we can work back on campus. I've found my dining room table
Ah,
after a year and a half.
yes, congratulations.
We want the trunk to look like actually in the pot, so we're gonna raise the bottom.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, Jade. Sarah, it's up to you on when you want me to get started. It's up to you.
Okay,
Whenever you like.
I'll just give it like one more minute maybe since people are trickling in.
Hey, Will.
Hey, how's it going?
Nice to hear your voice.
Hi.
Oh, there he is. Nice to see you.
Okay. All right, well, I'll just go ahead and introduce you now, and then you can get started. So welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to this. We're really excited to have Dawn kicking off our Humanities Research Institute Symposium. This has been a long time in the works. I think we did this research cluster in 2018, and we had plans for our capstone event in April 2020, but we all know what happened, and it's I'm glad that we're able to meet in the virtual space and have people from all over now joining us. So that's really nice. Dawn is one of my favorite faculty members that I've met on campus, and joined our zine cluster, not knowing anything about zines before, and then dove right into this, and I'm really excited to see how it all went. So I will hand it over to you, Dawn.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you for those of us that are here today. I know this is a really busy time of the semester and life. So thank you for giving us your time. So I wanted to explain kind of who I am a little bit before I talk about zines in the classroom. So I am a teaching associate professor. Professionally, I'm a teaching associate professor in the Department of Food Science and Human Nutrition. And Food Science and Human Nutrition is in the College of Agricultural, Consumer, and Environmental Sciences. So for those of you who may not be acquainted with that department, we are home to the undergraduate majors of food science, human nutrition, dietetics, and hospitality management. And this is actually really unique for an institute to have these majors combined. In fact, in many of our peer institutions, hospitality management may be in fine and applied arts or business. It's actually quite common for hospitality management to be in business. Dietetics and human nutrition are often in applied health sciences. And so for us to have the opportunity to have all of our majors combined under the kind of the umbrella of food and how food is interpreted by the consumer, is the purchasing behavior, how it's processed, how we then in our own bodies process. It's really, really interesting because our students are exposed to a really wonderful umbrella of perspectives that at other institutions may be a little bit more, segregated. And so that allows us to do really unique experiences and have really wonderful expectations for our students upon graduation. So I really value our department. I value that U of I has placed these majors all under kind of that same departmental umbrella, because it does allow our students to grow and evolve in new, unique ways. So that's a bit of the department and what we focus on. I do, because we're Zooming, and I apologize for the Zoom, but I was hoping it would allow more people to attend by having a Zoom. I know probably none of us want one more Zoom meeting, but this is a way to really allow for people from all over to attend. So because we're on Zoom, I think it's nice to know who you're talking to. I would love to know more about all of you as well. Julia, how's that baby? So yeah, so this is who I am. This is me actually right here. And then this is my husband, Joe, and our daughters. This is Isabel, she's 13, and this is Gianna, she's 11. They're still okay with me telling, showing our family picture. We are actually in front of some water in South Haven, Michigan. Water is really important to our family. It's important because we feel like it really rejuvenates us. It re-energizes us. It's a really important element of our life. And so I wanted to actually bring the water in too, because I think, it's kind of one of those common elements that makes our family happy. And then water is also important to me as a food scientist. It is my favorite molecule. I always say it's small but mighty, and that's what I aspire to be as well. So water's important to me professionally and personally. So that is who I am. As a teaching associate professor, I teach a number of classes. These images show some of them. So I teach the large-ish. It's not, compared to some classes, it's not large. Around 300 people. Introductory food science and human nutrition course, which we, in the last couple of years, have actually retitled The Science of Food and How It Relates to You, because in my opinion, it's one of the best gen ed courses a student can take. It really allows students to personally reflect on the categories of human nutrition, food composition and chemistry, food microbiology and processing, and food laws, regulations, and the consumer. And to me, as we evolve, as we become adults, we have to start making some really important decisions about what it is we're going to do to nourish our bodies, what choices we're going to make for the sustainability of our earth, and how we are going to still, value the diversity of the food supply, eat because we love it, and also make sure that we have cultural elements into our food choices. And so I really think this is the most important class that they can take as a gen ed. That being said, I would probably say, everything else is really, it's like this to me is 1A and then everything else is 1B, because gen eds are really, really important. So it's a really good course. So I get to do that introductory course. And then I teach a number of courses in the food science curriculum, some elective, like my beverage science and technology course, and then some that are required of the curriculum. So for example, food ingredient technology, we'll get more on that in a bit. And then I actually teach the capstone course for the food science concentration or major, which is food product development. And I'll touch on that a little bit more. I also direct our online master's program, and I teach in that as well. For example, the food chemistry course, and I actually teach a number of these courses for that program as well. And so what that has allowed me to really explore is how we design courses and how we deliver courses to different populations, and really what is it beyond just the theoretical context outcomes that we want. How are we delivering these courses? What are these populations? What are the additional skills we want on our courses? So that opportunity to be involved with the setting the curriculum and actually delivering courses through the online master's program, which we've been doing online learning, and that's for food science since 2010, has actually really taught me, I think, how to be a better teacher and looking into the pedagogy and really kind of exploring different options, which is why I'm here to talk today. My interest in kind of exploring new ways to do assessments or delivery for our students and trying to create the best opportunities for our students is kind of what led me to Zine.
Yes, feedback, okay.
So I'm gonna mute people if that's okay, but please come off mute if you have questions throughout. I'm gonna present for the first part, but if you, please stop me. I mean, that's fine. This is such a nice group, this nice group of us. So please stop me if you have questions along the way, but we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. I tried not to make too many slides. Okay, so food ingredient technology. So let's, use a little chat space time. So when you hear the term food ingredient, or you could say beverage ingredient, some of you may prefer to, I just lost my earring, consume your nutrients through liquid form. When you hear the word food or beverage ingredient, what comes to mind? What do you think of? Like when you think about ingredients, what do you think of? You can use the chat, it's fine. I'm gonna retrieve my earring. Oh, palm oil, that's a good one. That's an interesting topic in the world of food science and human nutrition. Okay, factory produced flavors, everything that's listed on the label of the container. Yeah, so Chelan, you're bringing in what we would call as consumer packaged goods or CPGs. What else? Jenna or Jade, if you want to use the chat. I'm not sure if your chat's enabled. Oh, synthetic versus natural. I love all these words. This is great. This is wonderful. Thank you so much for engaging. So yeah, I would say it's pretty much along the spectrum of what can we find in grandma's pantry or grandpa's, or whatever, whoever you like learn to cook from, neighbor's pantry, etc. Oh, I like that too. Names that are opaque to the consumer. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, so grandma, relationship, stated relationship pantry, all the way to a lot of times it's what you guys brought to the chat space, which were wonderful. Like, and we would probably classify it as, maybe ingredients to avoid on the food or beverage ingredient statement. But as you could probably guess, we as food scientists think about ingredients very differently. We think about ingredients as tools, just like we would have tools in building a house, nails and screws and washers, etc. We think about ingredients as tools with which to evolve our food supply. And what do I mean by evolution? Well, in some ways, we're trying to make many steps forward. In some ways, it might be, we might be considering we've taken some steps back and we have to reevaluate some of those choices. But yeah, so what we're trying to do is look at the foods and beverages that we are providing to our consumers that may, enhance nutritional quality, create some new exciting options, flavors like we're mentioned, textures, different appearances. A lot of times what we're doing is trying to preserve our foods or enable our foods to be distributed globally. Our food supply is global. Most of us, though, have centralized locations in which we live. Most of us, the vast majority of us worldwide, have a central location in which we live. We are no longer nomadic. We have to exist within seasons. And we have certain regions of the world that produce foods that align with that region of the world. So I always give this example to my students in 101. And so I'm going to ask you guys, how many of you like pineapple? Sarah likes pineapple. Yeah, Julia's got a big yes, which is great. Couple of thumbs up. So, oh, I like Jenna. My tongue doesn't. Ooh, that's exciting. That's a good food science piece. That's great. Yeah, so pineapple's exciting. I currently reside in the Champaign County area of the state of Illinois, and pineapple, it does not grow here. I like pineapple a lot too. I like fresh pineapple quite a bit. And so how do I get exposed to pineapple unless I'm traveling to other regions of the world? Well, I get exposed to pineapple through a variety of different forms from my grocery store, from my local grocery store. So that is something to consider, the resourcing, the distribution, the preservation. So being able to access foods from all over the world, being able to take foods that have a growing season and extend their availability throughout a calendar year. These are all really important. Another thing that's really important that we consider a lot of is cultural foods. And so let's say that we have students that are international students that have come to us from all over the world. how do they still consume the foods that, that they're familiar with, that they enjoy, that they appreciate? These are all reasons why, as food scientists, we utilize ingredients. I know it's very common for people to think that we use ingredients to make foods taste sweet or salty just so we keep eating them, particularly in the United States. That's actually not the case. And I would say, again, from a global perspective, other regions of the world would kind of probably be quite offended by that thought process, because other regions of the world are really, they pride themselves on creating these delicious, wonderful, available dishes. So I always like to kind of talk through what is ingredients. And it's important to this course and talking about zines, because I think this perspective helps kind of set a tone as to why I do the various assessments that I do. So this course in particular, it is a 400 level course. The students that take this course, they take it in their, traditionally they'll take it in their fall semester of their senior year. They will take it as a requirement prior to taking the capstone course. So I'll talk about that more in as a second. But what the course does, it explores the research, the science, the technology, the regulation of the production of safe, high quality food and beverage ingredients. The course is kind of unique. It's meets 1 time a week course. We meet for 2 hours and 50 minutes. And what I try to do is have kind of monthly themes. So for example, the month of September was carbohydrates. And so what I do is we actually have 2 weeks of presentations that include demonstrations and case studies and scenario exploration with industry professionals. So for example, in September, I had 2 presenters actually present both weeks. The first week they presented on what we would categorize as simple carbohydrates. The second week was complex carbohydrates. And that's really important to bring in these industry presenters to show the students what we're trying to get them to think about in terms of ingredients, which is the multifaceted nature of ingredients. Up until the point of taking this class, a lot of our courses are a little bit more, I would say, like mono-themed. So food chemistry, food microbiology food microbiology, processing, raw materials processing, but they're really focused on kind of individual pillars of food science. This is the first course we're really trying to get them to think across all of the key pillars and think about the multifaceted nature of ingredients and why ingredients would be selected in a food or beverage application. So what we do, it's really important to have those industry professionals come in and spend all that really important time with them. And then what we do, and actually the last 2 years we've been doing those presentations over Zoom, and then this year with us being back in the classroom, I still have the students on Zoom, and then we bring in demonstrations, and it's been I like the delivery of it quite a bit, and actually I'm gonna probably continue that way going forward. But then after the 2 weeks, then what we do is we have the students enter into the lab. They are in groups, so they'll have self-selected groups. Each student within a group will have an experiment that they have designed. And then after the exploratory, what I call laboratory exploration days around that category, then they come back together as a group and they share with one another what they learned, what they observed, what the data they collected, how they analyzed it, what science they can use to actually explain what's happening. So that's the way the course is designed. Like I said, September was carbohydrates. Monday we'll go into the lab to do our protein lab. So we had animal protein 1 week, plant-based protein, and then we'll keep going throughout this semester. So the course is very unique in the way that it's delivered. Most of our courses aren't delivered this way. We usually have lecture course and then a lab that's attached to it, or we might have a laboratory course or what have you. But this idea of like flip-flopping back and forth between presentation and then application in the lab, that's somewhat unique, but I think it's really important because when I used to teach the class, I only had the presentations. and the students just were not, they were not engaged with the industry presenters as much as I would like them to have been. So adding this laboratory component was really, really important. It's actually important too, because it's kind of a nice stepping stone for the students before going into their capstone experience. In the past, prior to their capstone experience, all of their courses were theory. So learn, take a test, learn, take a test, learn, take a test, or lab. So here is the laboratory that I want you to conduct, do it, and then write a lab report. Very important skills to have. But in the product development capstone course, it's a capstone course. It's a team-based course. They are expected to actually design and develop and deliver a novel food product around a technical challenge. They design all of their own laboratory experiences. They decide how they're going to solve problems, assess risk, implement the actual product. So it was such a jarring switch in the way that courses were delivered. The course was delivered, and students were feeling very, very overwhelmed. So this course, in addition to having them start to think about the multifaceted nature and start to apply what they've learned from their other classes to this specific category of food and green technology, they also get this kind of practice of owning their own laboratory exploration, which has been really, really nice. So that being said, I know that I've talked a lot about the course, but I think it's important to kind of, again, understand the context of the course, what we do in the course, so you can understand the assessments that I do. One thing that I also recognized was, because of the courses that we have prior to food and green technology, and we have a lot of lab courses, our students are pretty good at writing lab reports, but I wanted them to think beyond the lab report. I wanted them to start really exploring scientific communication. Plus, I'm not gonna lie, I don't love grading lab reports. They're not that fun to grade. It's not how I really love spending my time. So I decided that I needed to start thinking about a different type of assessment. And this is where we're gonna get to with the zines in the classroom. I'm gonna have a stopover first and tell you about a different assessment first, which maybe this is bonus. So I decided I wanted to start thinking about a different type of assessment. And right around the time I was thinking, I don't really want to grade lab reports. I'm going to bring in this laboratory component, but I don't want to grade lab reports. I went to the 2017 faculty retreat. Thank you, Chila. And at that retreat, Dr. Jeffrey Moore introduced his assessment technique, which is called collage journals. So this is a screenshot from the video vignettes that are produced along with the faculty retreat. You can go and find them. Although Chilan, that link's not working right now, just FYI. So anyway, so he started to talk about these collage journals, and I'm not sure if everybody's aware of who Dr. Moore is. He's the director of the Beckman Institute. He's the Stanley O. Eikenberry Endowed Chair and Professor of Chemistry and a Howard Hughes Medical Institute professor. Yes, I'm checking my notes on all of his wonderful titles. But he introduced this idea of collage journals because what he was finding is that his students were trying to process all the information they were learning so quickly that they didn't take the time to do reflection, metacognition, etc. And so he wanted a way to slow them down. And so he introduced these collage journals. So I am a STEM person, please keep this in mind. So I may not be using the right applied art application. Will keep me in check, I think. But from what I understand, a collage journal is a visual, often static and paper-based communication that encourages creative connections to learn concepts and lesson outcomes. And I was like, oh, wait, we can assess science students differently? What is this? This is exciting. Can I do this too? And so as he was presenting, I was recognizing that I was having the same challenges, especially around this like ways of processing information that he was talking about. It was really becoming quite meaningful to me what he was saying. I was thinking to myself the same thing. These students are just designing their life, their curriculum around like studying for a test and taking the test, or doing exactly what is told on a lab report and then writing a lab report. And I want them to think I want them to be brave in their thinking. I want them to think about how they're pulling information together. I want them to think about how they're communicating their information. So I decided that I'm going to think about a different way to assess too. And for what I came up with was a multimedia journal. So I didn't really want a static submission. I spent a lot of time in the online space. I wanted it to be more dynamic. And so I came up with this multimedia journal. So dictionary definition of multimedia, of art, education, etc., using more than one medium of expression or communication, or the use of a variety of artistic or communicative media. So I thought to myself, can I tangentially use an assessment like a collage journal, but have multimedia in it, have more of there can be definitely areas of static presentation, but can there be some more dynamic presentation as well? So as I describe it to my students in the syllabus, multimedia journals are journals that utilize a variety of artistic or communicative media to explain a concept, experience, etc. Providing multiple medias of expression encourages connection, understanding, and exploration. And so we use journals in place of laboratory reports to communicate what the students have investigated and observed and concluded from their group laboratory experiments. And then after those laboratory experiments, the groups come together and create these multimedia journals that explain their research introduction, materials and methods, analyze results, discussion, and conclusion. They have to have pictures, they have to have video, they have to have these, their introductions should have research-based content for sure. And some of that is more static imagery, figures, plots, tables, etc. But then they have to actually show me in a dynamic way what they observed in the lab, their data, their observations, etc. But then the added twist to this is, again, I wanted them to start to have more of a scientific communication experience. And I needed them to start listening more to what the media is saying about food. How many of you in the last 6 months have looked up a recipe, watched a TikTok or YouTube video about sourdough bread or whatever it is that you wanted, explored a new food category or a new type of dietary trend? How many of you have thought about food and done some research, whatever type of research, doesn't have to be peer-reviewed research, but done some research? Yeah, I mean, food is super important, right? We literally have an intimate relation. It's one of the most intimate relationships we have is with food and bev. We take these components, these compounds, and we put them in our body for specific reasons. Now, some of that might be nutritional, some of that might be health, some of it might be fun, some of it might be social or cultural, whatever it may be. But we have an intimate relationship with food and bev. And so because of that, we all have a lot, and because we're individuals and the way that we consume food and bev throughout our lifetime changes, we have a lot to say about food and bev, right? Like we have a lot of opinions, we have a lot of facts, we had a lot of observations, we have pulled together a lot of qualitative and quantitative data in our own daily lives around food and bev. And it's really important for our young food scientists to really explore what is being said. So they're actually required to also bring in popular press components, and then bring that into the discussion around what this use of ingredients, what people are saying. So this is an example of a multimedia journal. Okay, there we go. Oh, I guess I didn't mean to do it that way. So just want to show you, I'm going to click through it. This is one from 2017, and I'll be totally forthcoming. This is the third of the multimedia journals this group did. So whenever we bring in these kind of alternative assessments, they take a lot of time, energy, and effort. I'll get to that in a second. On behalf of the faculty member, a lot of drafting, a lot of guidance, a lot of encouragement, a lot of feedback, So this one I think looks pretty good, but keep in mind there was a lot of growth along the way to this particular multimedia journal. So, sorry, loading. So this is what one looks like. This is lipids in frying applications. I won't click through the whole thing, but you can see the multimedia nature of it. Oh, some of these aren't showing for some reason today. I think it's still loading and I'm going too quickly. Maybe I should slow down a little bit. But you can see, well, let's look here. So here we have, again, kind of some of those static images from the journal. Here are the different, so you can see, like, here's a video. So here we introduce our palm. Why palm? Palm oil was brought up earlier. Palm is controversial, so that's why. And then you can actually, it'll jump into the video, etc. So you can see what these end up looking like, and you can see how they bring in multimedia components. Oh, sorry, doing lots of things right now. To their multimedia journals. And I think this is such a fun and unique and really good practice for our students, our science-based students, to practice new forms of scientific communication and allow them to explore beyond what is kind of traditional scientific assessment. Oh, jumped ahead. So the thing is with these multimedia journals, though, is that they are intended for other scientists. The population that they design them for is myself as the faculty member, but if they were even to talk, when they do talk about it, when they share amongst the team, or I'm sorry, the groups, they're sharing to other scientists. And I was content with that for a couple of years. And then I really started thinking, we need to be communicating out to society. We need to allow our students practice around communicating out to society. And in 2019, I attended the A2RU Emerging Creative Student Summit. Have any of you attended this student summit? Okay, so it's amazing. I am so impressed with the students, what they do. So I had never attended it either. I was invited to attend it and to actually bring a student, which was wonderful, to attend this particular A2RU summit because it was on food in place, or that was the title of the summit. So now we're getting to zines. So this was the summit and I was like, food in place, of course I want to do this. And it was actually the invitation was extended to our dean at the time by the dean of the College of Fine and Applied Arts. And then she extended the offer to me and one of my students to attend. And it was such an important, life-changing opportunity for me because it's a summit that's attended by students and their faculty in more the fine and applied arts fields. In that space, I was the listener, and it was so important for me to be the listener. For me, it was such a generous attendance opportunity for me to attend because I wasn't expected to present. I wasn't expected to, lead a symposium or anything. I actually was just intended to go, bring a student, and listen to what is being talked about. Now, the title is Food in Place, but it really was like social justice of food, which is great. That's such an important topic to discuss. And it was so wonderful for me to listen to the presenters and listen to the student conversations around social justice and food. One of the components of the Student Summit is that the students that attend with their faculty, they are placed into groups, and in a very short 48-hour time period, they are expected to create new content, artistic content of various forms. They're expected to create something and have a deliverable at kind of a showcase at the end of the summit. And I was floored. I mean, I was so impressed with what these students were creating in such a short period of time. And these are students from all different facets of predominantly fine and applied arts. So we had students create compositions, poetry, artwork, online games, child books. I mean, it was like amazing. But one of the things that was created multiple times was, here we go. What do you think it was? What was one of the projects that many of the groups worked on? You know it, you love it. Starts with a Z, a zine. That was the first time I was introduced to zines. I had never heard of a zine before. I'm not cool. I don't know anything about subculture, anything like that. Like, so the historical context of a zine. Yeah, I'm not. I wish I was that cool, but I'm not. So I had no idea what a zine was. And in fact, these zines were online. So I actually was introduced to zines as online opportunities that allowed for bringing in multiple types of art as a way to communicate a message. So I didn't even know the history. The great group, the group that we were together, they taught me a lot about zines and the history of zines. So that's been really great. Right after I went to that, I went to this time, the 2019 faculty retreat, and Dr. Gillen Darcy Wood talked about how he has a zine, like he has his students as an assessment, create a zine for his class. So I'm not the first one to use zines in the classroom. In fact, everyone in our humanities group, they're doing it probably much better than I am, and they've been doing it for a very, very long time in so many different forms. But this was the second time that within a really short period of time of utilizing zines as a type of assessment. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, maybe this is a word I should be more alert or more astute, pay attention to a little bit more. And then right after that, Sarah came to my office. So Sarah Christensen, the visual resources curator for the library, as we very well know, she's right there. Hi, Sarah. So she came to my office to have a totally different conversation. And I think I was just so pumped about this whole, what is this zine and can I use it as an assessment, that's when she presented, oh, well, there's a bunch of us on campus that are interested in using zines as an assessment. And so would you like to be part of this Illinois program for research in the humanities, which is how we are here today. So yes, I did. And we did. So this, if you haven't participated in something along this lines before, it's a great way. And I really appreciate that this program allows for people, even outside the humanities, to kind of to learn from our faculty members in the humanities and think about how to apply humanities research towards other types of courses, for example, like my STEM courses. So we started working as a group, and I cannot thank people enough for all that they, like, I was just like excited. It's like, oh, yay, this is another type of assessment, another type of communication. But for me, I really didn't know a lot about zines. So thank you to all of you on the group. Thank you, Will, for inviting us into the art and design area and for showing us all those beautiful paper zines. Like I said, I started off thinking they were only online. So I didn't even know how you could fold paper to make these beautiful zines. And Catherine LeBar helped out from the teaching with zines, provided us so much rich information. Leon and David shared all the zines, and Dominique talked to us about what's happening at the University High School. So what a great group. Yeah, hooray, Catherine. Catherine was hugely helpful for me. So what I decided was, what I started thinking about was, how do I use a zine in my class? And how do I use this differently than these multimedia journals? How do I have this assessment different? So I decided to pay attention to population or audience that we were going to be distributing the zines to. So food and beverage, as we talked about, super scrutinized, highly scrutinized, should be scrutinized. Again, we're intimate with it. We put it in our bodies. We should be scrutinizing food and bev, very important part of our lives. But a lot of times that scrutiny leads to common misunderstandings. And I heard a lot at that A2RU summit as it pertains to social justice of food. I heard a lot of language, a lot of communications around less than foods and better than foods. And in particular, there was a presenter, there was one panel and there was a presenter that on the panel that was representing food banks and pantries. And her communication was really important to me about these common misunderstandings. She was talking about how she struggles so much with the dichotomy of the food supply and like this interpretation that packaged good is always bad for us, always heavily processed, always terrible ingredients. And if you are a person that is obtaining your food from a food bank or pantry, you already have an awareness of how you're sourcing your food. And there is already this concern. Oftentimes people have a concern of fear around their food or their food being less than. And I really felt it was important for us to start changing the narrative around packaged goods. And with that, maybe even too, you know, really thinking about how could some of these packaged goods, maybe how can their ingredient statements be edited? So I decided what would be a great zine-oriented project would be to have the second part of the semester, once the students are acclimated to multimedia journals and communicating through multimedia journals, to then encourage each group to take one of their multimedia journals, which intended audience, other food scientists, and translate that into a valuable zine that could be shared with different food banks or pantries in hopes that we provide information around the ingredients that are on an ingredient statement, why they're there. And in fact, what they're expected to talk about is a variety, they have a variety of different categories that they need to talk about with the zines. I'll talk about more about that in a second. So we focused last year on the student food pantry at the ARC. And then we also focused on the Eastern Illinois Foodbank. So creating zines that would be shared with these organizations. Of course, the zine that was created for the ARC was intended for the college student. And then the zine that was created for the Eastern Illinois Foodbank had more of like a wider audience distribution, either an individual of the community or maybe people with a family. So these were the two main, these were the two zines that came out of the semester zine project. This first one is Plant Proteins and Foods. And I'm gonna hope that we can bring this one up. Well, I'll bring both up. Sorry, I should have had that ready to go. I apologize. I should have both of these ready to go. Oh. Okay, so this is Plant Proteins and Foods. The students that completed this gave me permission to share this with you. Again, intended audience is college students that would attend and obtain their food from the food bank or from the ARC food pantry. And as you can see, there are different topics that they're expected to present on or incorporate. So history, the rise of plant-based proteins, and then also they have this really nice food insecurity in college. What is food insecurity? What is a bit of information about the college diet? And then also support for college students, which is great. Sources of plant proteins, uses. So how can you incorporate them? How can you incorporate plant-based proteins in your own diet? Recipes. And then health benefits and nutritional overview of plant-based proteins. Because if you see, even though it sounds great, pea protein, oats, there are a reason why those ingredients are incorporated into foods and in particular consumer packaged goods. The science of how plant proteins work in the foods. So actually talking through, some key reasons, trapping the color, flavor, and aroma, edible films and coatings, thickeners, and then a variety of different references. And if I were to show you the other zine, you would see that would be, that one, like I said, was for the Eastern Illinois Foodbank. But in making sure we have enough time for questions, I'm going to kind of zoom past that one. I can share both of these though. The student groups both said that they are willing to share out, and they've actually been shared out with the ARC Food Pantry and the Eastern Illinois Foodbank. So that is how I utilize zines in the classroom. Again, I know we had kind of a story and a journey to get there, but I think it is important to understand the context of why I incorporated zines and how I do. Just some observations of using zines. Because they had to both create a multimedia journal and then take that and enhance it around a specific subject matter to a specific population. For the zine project, students were way more focused during the industry presentations. Now, of course, we've embedded more like checks for understanding and all those good active learning tools that we should utilize, but they knew that they had, a lot of times our students still have a bit of a what's in it for me type of a attitude around coursework, and they knew what their expectations were both in the multimedia journal and the zine, so they paid way more attention. They were engaging with me outside of class because they wanted to do a good job. They knew that this zine, it was one thing to submit a multimedia journal, which I would see and their peers would see. It's a whole nother situation of you're going to submit this to an organization, right? An ARC or the ARC Pantry or the Eastern Illinois Foodbank. So they wanted to make sure that they were doing a good job with communicating. They were excited by the laboratory experience because they knew that they were going to be bringing in, they were really needing to understand and evaluate how they were then going to take their learnings, which they communicate in the multimedia journal, and place it into the zine. And then they had so much fun creating the multimedia journals and the zines. It's a lot of work, but as I tell them, you know, the weeks prior, they could work towards kind of organizing and thinking about the editing and the producing. But the week that they have to do the multimedia journals, or the 6 weeks that they have to do the zines, it's going to be, you have some effort. There are weeks where you have less effort for the class other than attending class, and then there's weeks you have more. And then they were sharing, like they were doing more group to group sharing, which was awesome. And then of course they had this opportunity through the zine to share with the community around them. So those are great observations. In terms of my tips, clear instructions, what, why, who, oh my gosh. I love that they want to know I feel especially this year, they're a little less brave than in the past. And I'm sure it has a lot to do with this last, 20 months. But very, very clear instructions, really, really important. I say consider a rubric, but after the first draft. You don't want them to be just checking boxes. You want them to be creative, and you want them to explore their ability to communicate. It's better to give them to do a draft and kind of do one of those, like everybody gets all the points on the draft, and then actually have a meeting with them to go through all the different ways that you were either confused in the communication, or you would improve and enhance the communication. So consider a rubric, but after the first draft. Decide if this is going to be a group project or a team project. Those are different types of assignments. If you want to learn more about that, let me know, because I love talking groups versus teams. Set aside plenty of time for draft feedback. I actually took out a couple of the industry presenters. While they were very important, we have categories of ingredients that are really, really important. I really narrowed it down to 7 categories so that I had time for draft feedback sessions. Really important. And then, of course, with everything, encourage reflection. Help them think about why they're doing what they're doing, why it's important, not just for them, but for the community, for their future. Really try to incorporate the reflection. I'm going to open it up for 10 minutes of questions. I want to acknowledge a few people. Of course, Sarah, thanks for bringing me in on this journey. It has been so awesome, and I love the group that we are with. And again, thank you to everyone in the group, because whoa, did I learn a lot from all of you. It was amazing and wonderful, and I don't want to lose track of all of you, so please keep in touch. Thank you all for attending and engaging. What questions do you have? I was hoping to get done 15 minutes earlier, but I am known to not stay stay on task. Julia, question, you can definitely utilize your mic. Hi.
Hi, so good to see you.
So good to see you.
I really appreciate your like forthrightness about this sort of issue around like trying to find a different assessment tool, just also because, you know, same old assessment tools are boring to grade. I listened to a really interesting talk by a researcher that was talking about undergraduate work as a waste product.
Interesting. Can you share that with me?
Yeah, it's a really interesting perspective that I really appreciate. That was sort of like, where does all of this labor go? Like, is it being reused, or is it this one-sided thing that then becomes the labor of the professor that then how does that help each other? So I guess I was wondering like what you would say about, it seems like the product, or I guess I hate to use the word product. It seems like what was produced at the end in this tangible source, this like zine source, has such a longer life than maybe like a lab notebook would have. So I guess I'm just asking you to like reflect on the idea of like, instead of something that a student gives to a professor and then you're sort of done, like, I would imagine students probably don't usually go back and look at their lab notes, or like only occasionally might, whereas this zine then suddenly becomes something that can like circulate in a lot of different places and have a different lifespan. I'm not trying to hate on lab notebooks. I think they're important.
No.
But
Absolutely. I think Julia, you bring up a good point about having departments evaluate curriculum kind of as a whole. Oftentimes they couldn't do the zine, they couldn't do the multimedia journal and the zine without having so many experiences with the lab report. So I'm not hating on lab reports either, but our students had already done so many lab reports, and they were oftentimes, here is the lab you are going to conduct. These are the materials, these are the methods, you do this exactly in this way. And then you report out as a laboratory report. That is a very valuable exercise and assessment, absolutely. But it does stay within the class. It's another thing too with a course like ours, and I would say a course in any curriculum at an institute of higher education, of students keeping their coursework discrete. So I did that for this course, so it stays within the realm of that course. I did this laboratory experience for food chemistry, so it stays within the world of food chemistry, etc. You are right. By being able to, even the multimedia journals, but definitely the zines, because those were shared out, the students are then able to take what they've learned how to do well, conduct an experiment, collect data, analyze data, change it to a more outward facing assessment. And then that becomes a line on their resume, a part of their portfolio. They could have those laboratory reports in that portfolio as well, especially if they intend to go to, like an analysis type role. But they're probably going to be more apt to do it with something that looks a little bit more attractive, more exciting, etc. So I think that there is essential value in all these different types of assessment. I'm just lucky in that I teach a 400 level class that they hit near the end of their curriculum, and I'm able to, and I also teach the product development class, so I know where the gaps exist between the end of their junior year and the and that senior capstone experience in terms of scientific communication. So I have the beauty of being able to do this too. That's a great question though, and I do not want to undervalue all the types of assessment. I do think variety of assessment, and getting back to what I was saying, explaining to all the students along the whole curriculum the whys we are having them do what we're doing. This semester, because I transitioned from Compass to Canvas, I revamped my syllabus, and in the syllabus, I literally, and I know not everybody has scratched to this, but I literally brought in Bloom's taxonomy, and I like explained to them where along Bloom's taxonomy this class is and why it's different than the other classes that they took, while those other classes were important for establishing the lexicon, establishing the understanding, etc. So with these alternative assessments, we do need to explain why it is we're doing what we're doing and how it could have them reflect on how it could be beneficial to them in the future. Great question. Do you have another one? We'll put your hand up. I think we can do it. Yeah. Okay, great. What other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm so interested in your observations that the students were more engaged, like with you outside of the classroom, and also like with the other industry people coming in. Did you ever hear back from the food banks about like how the zine was used and received? And
that is a great question. And I'm going to actually own that, as I haven't asked either. We had a lot of great engagement at the end of the semester, and I was, I said, let me know of data, let me know of traffic, let me know if anybody, yeah, and then it's my fault. I didn't follow back up. So that's one of my to-do and tasks for this next year is I'm going to do a better job of, because this is one thing, to Julia's point, is like, they probably are not asking the food bank. That does almost fall more on my shoulders. I would love for it to be, the students are checking in and looking at traffic and all that stuff, but that I will own. And it is, new assessment, you identify these gaps, and I will say, if I ever want to try and like publish, which is why I told the ARC and told the Eastern Illinois Foodbank, I may want to publish this. That's going to provide some of that quantitative validation of why I have good qualitative observations, but I need a quantitative piece to this puzzle. So
yeah,
good question.
Tried so hard to make it good.
They did great though. They really loved, I know this is so broad in general, and I was trying to be more specific. They loved it. Like, it was a lot of work, and they told me every step of the way. But what they produced, they were so proud, and they felt like they were part of change. I just think it was really exciting.
Do you have time for one more question?
I have time. Sarah, is that okay?
Yeah, sorry, I was just typing in the chat. There's another session happening at noon, and I'm not sure if I leave and then start a new one, if that will destroy this. So
no problem. I'm going to have a private meeting with Dawn, and I can ask her there.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. I don't want you guys to be late to the 12 o'clock. We actually have the ACES faculty retreat all this day too. It's double time. But please, if you have any questions, I should have put my email at least in I think I had it on the first slide. There's my email. I was intending to do this too, which is, I was gonna put my, put the PDF of the presentation in the chat space. So feel free, take all, whatever it is. I would love to continue conversation around this and see what other people do in the classroom. Because I know I learned a lot from like Leon and David and Will and everybody. So, and Julia, what you did with the camp and everything, I mean, it was so helpful. So please stay engaged. Zines in the classroom can be done. Maybe they're not as like subcultured then, but it's a great opportunity for the students. Thank you for your time.
thank you, Dawn, so much.
Bye, everybody. Bye.